Hi, folks. Thanks for attending today. We're going to talk about final food defense rules under FSMA. So we're going to talk about building a team, which is required under the rules, looking at vulnerabilities, where in your process are you vulnerable to attack by terrorists or other people interested in contaminating your food. And we're going to talk about how to incorporate the company defense plan into your overall food safety plan, verification that the defense strategies that you've planned are in place, overall valid preventive approaches, proving your plan works, talk about procedures, documentation that's required, and protecting your company and personnel from lawsuits. The rules were developed 2011 and finalized in 2017. And so the idea is that the central external force driving change is the dramatic expansion in the global scale and complexity of the food system. We developed specific strategies, capacity building. So here's our problem. Just to review, three major contaminants: bacteria, chemical contaminants, and dirt, right? Physical types of contaminants. Allergens is a big issue. So FSMA, working under FDA, decided to establish standards. Some of them are listed here. Standards for growing, harvesting, packaging. And then, of course, all these you have to keep records to prove that you've put the system in place and that you're testing the system. One thing you need to know here is that the FDA doesn't work alone. If you look at this list, by the way, we also have foreign offices under the FDA. This is an old list. Okay, so FSMA, Food Modernization Act, covers food from farm to retail, foreign or imported. Every food defense plan has to have these components. The plan, by the way, has to be signed, reviewed, and updated by the owner, operator, or person in charge of the facility. The feds couldn't come in and seize records, your data and your information. So let's talk about these rules. The idea here is to prevent terrorism and sabotage. Okay, the rules require foreign and domestic facilities to address vulnerable processes. So here's a look at some of the things you're going to have to deal with. Now, management got to come up with the correct policies that I'm going over today. Okay, the goal: prevent terrorism or sabotage. Who's covered? Farms are excluded from these rules, and liability and enforcement for failing to prevent. Okay, some of the things that the FDA focuses on: process steps identified for food. So you're going to have to prepare and implement a written food defense plan. You're going to train your people. You're going to keep records, okay? No records means you didn't do it. Everybody should have complied with it by now. That includes very small businesses, and other business. That's everybody else. There are some exemptions. This exemption applies in such activities only, or if such activities are the only activities conducted by the business subject to the rules. That's a little confusing. These foods include certain types of eggs and certain types of game meat. There's one thing to have product liability, but there's a secondary issue, vicarious liability. You can't point fingers and pass. So part of the rules say that you have to address hazards that may be intentionally introduced by acts of terrorism. Food facilities would be required to identify and implement focused mitigation strategies, and then you're going to do a reanalysis. A lot of this is where your management comes in and enforces it. Reduce significant vulnerability, which is a vulnerability that, if exploited, could reasonably, the set of rules says you need to have a qualified individual. What's an actionable process step? In verifying, okay, verifying, that's like an audit operation, right? You're going around, you got your plan, you got your procedures, going around to see if everything's done. Okay, let's get a little specific. Acts of disgruntled employees, consumers, or competitors intended to attack the reputation of the company, want to hurt you to make themselves wealthier by destroying your company or giving you a bad reputation. You must do a vulnerability assessment that includes potential public health impact if the contaminant was added. Consider the possibility of an inside attacker. Okay, so you're going to establish your planning and preventive teams and provide training, verify, take corrective action. Mitigation. At each vulnerable step point, you must determine a strategy how you can prevent the attack. The goal of a team structure is to create a unified and focused cooperative approach Let's talk about basic types of teams. And you put the types of people in that team that understand that cause and can help to eliminate it. Statistics, fishbone causal analysis, and teams, and continuously track to near zero levels. The emphasis is to hand off that authority and responsibility to people that do the job. Okay, we're talking about, you've heard of continuous improvement many times, and they have team and individual activities, and they have to report what's going on, and they get rewarded. Let's talk about forming basic teams. A functional improvement team. One kind of team is another kind of team is common cause. So we have different members and we organize a team this way. So let's talk about some team rules, and then you can set up other rules that you want. Be on time, have your action item complete. Here's a typical reporting for team. We talk about food fraud a little bit as part of this session. We got a lot of potential stuff here, not just food safety, but things that could go into or cause diluted dairy products. So there's lots of ways to go about. Now, in food fraud, there's a lot of different types of detection strategies. I talked earlier, I said the foods leave out traceability and recall. We don't have a good traceability system that responds quickly. Visibility means to know the condition of food anywhere in the supply chain. We talk about 5 measures. What is the food? Where is it? What condition it is in? Is it under temperature control? Is it clean? Do we have a history or records? And what's the cost for? Okay, let's talk for a minute about the seizure and destruction of adulterated foods. The purpose is to ensure that imported food or other food that presents a significant risk to public health is not distributed or exported. Seizure and destruction is the federal level. Customs at the border. All right, so that's the end of my presentation. So going back over it just for a minute, your responsibility is to form these teams, define your process. Steps in your process could potentially be contaminated. Flowchart that process, list all those steps, put all this data in the plan, your suppliers and your team members, and take action, right? Set up a plan to mitigate potential vulnerabilities, and then train your team members to do improvement on what they're doing.
Thank you so much, participants, for joining today's webinar, and have a great day. Thank you.